Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into Lenskart, a company that looked at a problem a whole lot of us are dealing with, our eyesight getting worse, and saw a massive business opportunity. So let's get right into it.
So here's the question. Can bad eyes actually make for a good business? It sounds a little weird to put it that way, but the eyewear market, which has been around for centuries, is honestly a bigger deal now than ever before. And the reason why might actually surprise you.
Because, and it sounds dramatic to say, we're literally in the middle of a global eyesight epidemic. And that one single fact is the rocket fuel for a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Okay, so first, let's just try to wrap our heads around the sheer scale of this epidemic. Because to really get Lenskart, you first have to understand the staggering opportunity it was built on. Just look at these numbers. They're pretty stark. In India, more than half the population now has some kind of eye issue. And this isn't just about people getting older. Our modern lives, all the screens we stare at, not enough sleep, it's all making our eyesight get worse faster. But here's where it gets really interesting for a business. Of all the people who need glasses, only about a third of them are actually wearing them. That huge gap, that's a massive, untapped market. And it's a gap created by things like cost, not having a store nearby, or just not realizing how bad your vision has gotten. And that leads us to the second major force pushing this whole market forward. See, eyewear is this fascinating product that's two things at once. It's a medical necessity, but it's also a fashion statement. So you've got these two powerful engines running at the same time. The medical need is growing like crazy, sure, but at the exact same time, glasses have become an accessory. People aren't just buying one pair to see with anymore. They're buying multiple pairs to go with different outfits. This completely changes the game.
And the growth we're talking about here is just staggering. In India alone, over the next 5 years, an estimated 111 million new people are going to need glasses. That's not the total market. That is a tidal wave of brand new customers about to hit the shore. This whole fashion angle also means we're all buying glasses more often. A decade ago, a customer might have bought, less than one pair every couple of years. Today, that number has more than doubled. So the market isn't just getting wider with more customers, it's also getting deeper because each customer is buying more. So you have this absolutely booming market. How on earth did Lenskart come in and shake up an industry that's been doing things the same way for like 700 years? Well, it all came down to a simple but really powerful two-pronged attack. It really boils down to these two big moves that make Lenskart different. First, they decided to take complete control over their entire supply chain. And second, they wove technology into absolutely every part of the business. And this first part, this is really the core of their entire model. The old way of selling glasses was just messy. You had all these different middlemen, each taking a cut, adding cost and time. Lenskart just collapsed that whole thing. By making everything themselves, they didn't just cut costs. They took delivery times from a week or more down to as little as 1 day. And when you're that efficient, the profitability is just stunning. Lenskart pulls in a gross margin of nearly 70%. So for every dollar they make on a pair of glasses, 70 cents is profit before you even account for things like rent and marketing. That's the power you get when you own the entire process from start to finish.
But being efficient was only half the battle. The other half was technology, but not just tech for tech's sake. They used it to solve real-world problems. For example, it's really hard to find a skilled optometrist in smaller towns. So Lenskart's solution? Remote optometry. An expert sitting in a city hub can give a perfect eye exam to a customer hundreds of miles away.
And the scale they're doing this at is it's honestly mind-blowing. We're talking 13 million remote eye tests in a single year. Think about what that does. That one innovation just completely removes one of the biggest roadblocks to growth, letting Lenskart expand into new places way faster than anyone else ever could.
Okay, so we've seen the market and we've seen the strategy. But does it actually work? Is the money there? Let's take a look at the financial results.
The revenue growth has been, explosive. It's nearly doubled in just a couple of years.
Now, of course, that kind of insane growth is slowing down a bit as the company gets bigger. That's totally normal. But the real story here is the shift from just pure growth to pure profitability.
Because while that revenue growth is slowing, profitability is kicking into high gear. Their EBITDA margin, which is basically a way to measure how profitable the main business is, has more than doubled. This is a huge pivot away from that growth at all cost startup mentality. It's so significant, in fact, that Lenskart just booked its first ever annual net profit, a huge milestone.
And a big piece of this new push for profit is a very specific choice, moving away from a franchise model and owning its stores directly. Now, this is a classic business trade-off, right? The pros are you get total control and you keep a bigger slice of the profit from each store. The cons? Well, you have to pay for all that expansion yourself, and that gets very expensive very fast.
So where does the Lenskart machine go from here? What does the future look like? Well, they have a pretty clear roadmap. They're pushing hard into international markets, like the UAE and Japan, and they're doing it smartly by acquiring local brands like Owndays to get an instant foothold. And of course, they're continuing that big, expensive transition to owning their entire retail network.
When you really boil it all down, Lenskart's genius was looking at a 700-year-old industry and seeing all the clunky, inefficient problems that everyone else just took for granted. By solving those problems with ruthless efficiency and really smart tech, it built a truly modern retail machine. Which leaves us with the final critical question. The market has some incredible tailwinds for sure, but competition is fierce and getting fiercer. So just how durable is this machine that Lenskart has built? Thanks for joining me on The Explainer.